friends. You're about to hear a voice that is very, very bullyable.
So annoying that you can't complain about a game or just simply say you don't enjoy it without it somehow being a skill issue.
No. This is true. But it's always a caveat, you see. There are so many games, so many different genres, so many implementations and playstyles, that ultimately the enjoyability of a game comes down to various factors, but there are three main factors necessary. You need to have a good premise, you need to have good mechanics, and it needs to have a good loop. This is the basic caveat. There are more factors than this, especially when you start talking about different factors of different genres and the appeals of those different play loops, but we're going to keep it simple. You need those three things. Since this is yet another person that is about to use the example of Arc Raiders, the example of Arc Raiders is, as I explained before, the play loop of the Deep Wilderness of Gilnor, which is to say, Old School RuneScape, which is to say, a high loot, full death zone, full loot PvP. It utilizes four factors: the PVM monster, the PVM raider and looter, the anti-PKer, who can be fighting and looting, and working together with other players, and the clanner, the hunter-killer, the PvP player, the griefer, as many of you like to call it. And this player, these people, are there for various reasons. The NPC is there for you to become a loot pinata. The PVM player is there to be a loot pinata and also attempt to gear themselves without necessarily taking direct combat. Not that they cannot take direct combat, but because there is something that might be preventing them from doing so. Say, in the example of Old School RuneScape, you're on an account rebuild. You have no loot. You lost it. And or you're doing a challenge and or content to prove how you can be able to do it. So, you go to the place where you can find that. If we're using the equivalent, that would be the Revenant Caves in Singles plus Multi. And also Slayer in Singles plus Multi. You're going to a place where there's a lot of loot to enrich yourself. Should there be a person that does not like this game loop, and that they are not interested in that game loop, it is possible to complain about it, and or say, this is not for me, without being accused of complaining, bitching, moaning, and whining. Because if you have an opinion, and you're passionate about that opinion, it should not be the immediate assumption that you are complaining. I have explained this in plenty of material. I have said this about plenty of games. I have debated this with plenty of people, and I have proven my point with plenty of people that that is the case. However, we'll get there when we get there. At the end of the day, you don't need to defend your opinion to anyone. You can just leave. It's not an airport. You don't have to announce your arrival and your departures.
The Arc Raiders player base is the best example, because I just made a video about them the other day saying it's just not a game for me. It's kind of boring. I don't have fun with the gameplay loop. I feel like the whole reward system is that you play just to get better guns so you can go grief people and fight the robots. And the only reason you're fighting robots and griefing people is so you can upgrade your guns so you can fight more robots and grief more people. That's the whole game. And it drives me fucking crazy. And everyone's like, so you're bad at the game. So it's gear fear and you're bad at the game. No, I feel fucking bored when I'm walking around the desert for 40 minutes looking for an elevator.
And boom, done. Simple and clean. Like the way you make me feel at night. It's hard to let things go. It don't have to be more than that. But of course, people are going to say that. Now, where I disagree with you, with almost all of you, is the loop of your game is very obvious. It's very obvious if you just look at it. See, the point of Arc Raiders isn't loot things, shoot other people, take their stuff, and endless murdering, endless looting, endless killing to forever reach a never-ending goal. That's not the game you're playing. That would be an ARPG. That would be Path of Exile. That would be Diablo. That would be Torchlight Infinite, and others like it. No, you're playing a very simple community-based game. It is you versus the Ark, and versus the raiders that are trying to attack you, and or you attacking the world to take them for their bank, so that you then can make decisions and choices moving towards other goals. Much like Helldivers, you have community-based content goals. The idea here, as I explained, 4 roles. If you remove the PVM, which is the Ark, and the looting, what are you left with? The PKer, the anti-PKer, and the PVM player. Now, what's on the map that you need a lot of people to fight? World bosses. But oh my god, I'm just trying to work on it and then I get shot in my back. You have a tool system, right? What on that tool system has a automatic cannot be remapped button that says, hey, want to team up? Ba-doom. You work together with other people selectively, and you choose to work together for a generate benefit. And or you will pretend to do so, see through the task, confirm the kill, and then continue following through with your assistance, with your teamwork. Or, potentially, turn traitor, stab them in the back like a bandit, and then take the loot and extract with it. All for the goal to eventually have your own material and your own gear so that you can set out to do those tasks. Do you want to hunt players? Then set up situations and set up traps where you can take the loot of those players looking to take advantage of places that they believe are unlooted, or the advantage of situations they think they can press as a third party. Do you want to work together with other people? Then learn your skills, learn how to anti-PK, learn how to play defensive, and go into situations not immediately trusting of every person you see, but with the intention of attempting to cooperate as best as you can, within reason, for your ability. If there's a bunch of other raiders that are trying to do a job, and you're all going in the same direction of something, such as the matriarch, you can work together, and you can take down that matriarch. And if you come across some players where if you have a good enough diplomacy and high enough charisma, you might be able to convince people that otherwise would murder you to be tempted to protect you while you're fighting. Because the way it goes is this. You're a loot pinata, right? The other people are also loot pinatas. A PVM player goes to the PvP player, or the PvP player sneaks up behind them. It's like, I'm about to press this long, hard shotgun in your spine, blood. I hope you had a nice time. Wait. If you protect me while I deal with this event, I give you half the loot. And if you protect me from other raiders, you get all their loot. All I need is some bandages and, of course, recharged shields. You make an interesting offer, little lamb. Deal accepted. And now, next thing you know, you're in a very strenuous and tenuous situation where you don't know if they're going to follow through. But boy, isn't it exciting. That is the game loop. It is the trolley problem, as well as the cart experiment, all wrapped up in the skin of a battle royale that attempts to trick you into thinking that it's an extraction shooter, when really it's All-Star Superman, the exact moment where Lex Luthor realizes how the world works. You're all in it together, as you show, and you far, while you're all stars, and you see it. It's as simple as that. It's just as simple as that. That's the game loop. That's Arc Raiders. There are various other games that emulate or simulate a similar style, but unfortunately those games are only about murdering people. In this one, if you want to be able to do all the content, you actually have to work as a team with other people. And if you go into duos and trios with the intention of working with an already pre-organized group, you increase the hostility, because there is a divergent culture amongst your player base. players in solo are going to be much more chill. They're probably going to avoid those night raids, where there's going to be more likelihood of hostility. They're, for some reason, incapable of realizing that they don't have to spend their loot keys to open doors on a night map, on a day map, and instead they can loot higher loot in a night map if they go out with the intention of having just enough gear to get by and just enough fallback that they can be able to produce something off their benches with their crafts, that they can be able to see themselves through. And then, who knows? Your own goal becomes the focus of the game. Maybe you want to make a cult. Maybe you want to potentially even present your own opportunities for emergent clanner behavior. Assuming that the streamers don't go outright looking to destroy your ability to do that by specifically creating a death trap in duos and trios, specifically just to grief for the day because they thought they could on the broadcast. But it can be whatever you want it to be at that point. Besides that, again, not an airport, don't need to announce arrival or departure. But it is what it is. It is what it is.
I've seen this with games I enjoy too, because I've seen the Marvel Rivals community do this too. Like, same with Rainbow Six Siege, like any of my favorite games in the past, it's always turned to, oh, so it's a skill issue. Maybe the game is just not for those people. Like, anyone can hate a game for fair if they just don't like playing it. That's reason enough. You'll even get this with single-player games. Like, bro, tell a Soulsborne player you don't find having a grueling day to be fun, and they'll go, oh, so it's a skill issue. Yeah, the game is about torturing yourself.
Now, see, this is where we, the Dark Souls players, the Soulsborne players, catch a lot of flack for no reason. You see, the people who started abusing the phrase get good was not the Dark Soul players. It wasn't the Demon Soul players, the original Souls players. It wasn't all Elden Ring players. It was specifically people who continued to complain and whine and moan about not being able to succeed at the game with underhanded and cheap tactics and strategies. If you go through the series of videos I've been putting out on this, basically, the people in your player base of ARC Raiders, the people who have been cheating, the people who have been modding, the people who have been hacking, the people who have been using exploits, the people who have been complaining and asking for buffs without the ability to get better at the game with their own intonation, go into night raids, use their keys on night raid doors to then get better loot, and then extract with that loot. All those people that their first inclination was not to try to get better, or to figure out if the game was really for them, and then decide if they're going to want to continue playing it, but instead to kvetch, and kvetch, and kvetch, and kvetch, and kvetch. Those are the players that you're supposed to say get good to. We catch a lot of bad rep because little Timmies that got handled want to copy the culture and be a part of the movement when they can't even be on the Rasta. Be that as it may, and with that being fully explained, again, airport arrivals, departures, don't have to announce them. But also, if there are people who go out of their way to irritate and annoy you because they know that it will get under your skin, you just have to ignore them. Block them, put them on blinders. You have communication tools for a reason. You can choose who you play with, you can choose who you don't play with. And never the twain shall meet. Simple stuff, dude. Simple stuff.
Like having a little bit of difficulty in my single-player games, but my God, I'm not trying to compete and have a competition with a single-player experience, bro. If I want to compete, I'll go play a ranked online mode. I said this the other day, I could say I don't like Minecraft, and somehow you guys would say it's a skill issue. It's the only excuse you have for valid complaints.
And now, on the way out of the door, I must hit you with some actually, it's a thought-terminating cliche. It's a crutch. It's not an excuse. It's a crutch. It is entirely possible to play a single-player game, to play a multiplayer game, to play any kind of game that has a self-imposed challenge and a included challenge with the interest of getting better at the game, which is a part of why you need those factors that make for a good game to have a game loop. If you are disinterested with the game loop of ARC Raiders, again, airport, arrivals, departures, don't announce them. But should you truly want to get better at them and you're just annoyed with the community and the player base and how they choose to speak, You have to disconnect yourself from them. Go into the gaming wilderness, become a hermit, and experience that loop away from them until you can truly get it. Otherwise, it's whatever. Because you can't slander things and say, well, if I wanted to have a challenge in difficulty, I'd play a ranked match. And you think they're going to be any nicer to you inside of a ranked match? Because I can tell you exactly how that conversation goes. You don't try hard enough. They're going to call you out on the fact that you're being sloppy. You're going to say, bro, I'm not playing pro. And they're going to say to you the same thing I'm going to say to you now. You spent your time making an account. You got it to the level that was the breakpoint necessary to start playing the ranked ladder. Then you had to start learning all those materials and all of those tricks of the trade and all those tools necessary for you to be able to be a functional team member so that you could carry your weight. And then you continued developing that skill as you continued finding those opportunities where you then became skilled enough that you could take on a person who was completely unprompted and unprepared for ranked versus a person who is brand newish to a level of veteran up until it meets your skill floor or your skill ceiling. And then you hover in that zone, at that difficulty, at that level. Something that any person knows whenever they play a ladder system. That is actually meant to be a competitive one. You cannot go into this environment, and you can't go into these arguments, and say, man, you guys just really just want to have cock and ball torture, because some of them do. Yes, and they're going to say, yeah, absolutely. Why is it that I can handle it and you can't? Some of them are going to be nasty about it. But the serious people like myself, they're going to say, listen, I understand where you're coming from, but this is a lot of cope, and you cannot put that all on people. Because when you come at it from this way, when you say it the way you're saying it, when you say it with that voice, and when you say it with that face, they're going to call you Waterboy, all right? They're going to call you Waterboy, and they're going to call for a Prism to come get you some watercolors. It is what it is. You cannot say that and then not have the ability to turn around and agree with what I just said. If you wanted to become, let's use the example of League of Legends, or let's use the example of Marvel Rivals. If you wanted to become Challenger in League, if you truly wanted to become a part of the top 100, and have your account compete against hundreds of different Smurf accounts and normal accounts of regular players in that rating, you're not going to say these things. You're just going to put in the work and the time and the effort to get there. Same thing with Celestial for Rivals. You would put in the time and the energy and the effort to get there. Because it's all math. It's all math and it's all process. You're going to figure out what works against what and who works against who and how to utilize the tools that you have available at your skill level, and you're going to figure out the tips and tools and tricks of the trade while also possibly getting and gleaning some actual advice from skilled players, because somebody has to help you do it. If you don't do it all yourself and don't figure it out like a guru, you're going to go find help. You're going to look up a guide. You're going to look at a streamer. You're going to look at multiple streamers. You're going to look at the streamers that play PVM. You're going to look at the streamers that play PvP. You're going to look at the streamers that play anti-PK. You're going to take in information. You're going to become an amoeba sponge. And you're going to soak that knowledge in. Then you're going to execute. And you're going to practice. And you're going to train. And you're going to get in the lab just like a fighting game player. And you finna get busy. You finna get busy. And you're going to put belt to ass. BTA all up and down the quadrants. Night raids, day raids, situational raids, hero raids, where you're specifically protecting people, renegade raids, where you are killing any person you come across, and you are telling them out of the way, go the other way, I'm not friendly, don't come in this room, I will blast you, and you do that enough that you become lethal. When you do that, it will no longer be a question and problem with people saying that, lol, he doesn't have hands, doesn't have skills. Look over at the Mindful Gamer. This man has become a cult leader. He is putting them down. At the end of the day, you have to work for it if you really want it. If you want it, don't argue about it. There's no reason to talk to these people. But if you're going to say these things, at least be able to approach the conversation with the knowledge of saying, listen, I understand this is how it is. I just don't like the fact that there are people who will basically not give actual meaningful advice, because that's an actual problem. That's what makes people want to crash out most of all. It's not the games, it's the environment, it's the community, it's the player base. The game don't talk back to you and treat you like this, unless it actually has voice actors that does that. No, it's the players. The players are getting on your nerves. Now, somebody could hit you with teamwork and perseverance against that kind of attitude is a skill, but I'm not going to do that to you. It is not all skill difference. It's not all skill issue. Those people, they have a crutch. And they like that crutch because that crutch allows them to not have to actually engage in the conversation. Ignore how those people behave. Figure out what it is you want out of the game. If the game cannot provide it to you, ditch the game. Move on. Leave. Don't have to look back. Don't have to defend yourself. But if you actually want to be in that environment, if you actually want to play that game and get better and be proud of yourself, you have to put in the work and get busy. So get in the lab and get busy. Figure out what your weakest skill is. Shore it up. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. And I promise that you, one day, will become the god that you were meant to be. All right? All right. Hugs and kisses. Yeah! Love ya!